Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Mega House Variable Action Hero Trafalgar Law from One Piece, which is a character I haven't yet come across. I haven't gotten that far in the show. I'm almost there, so I can't really comment on the likeness, but I can comment on the figure, so that's what we're going to do. The only likeness thing that I will bring up is that based on this image, that's what his hat is supposed to look like. And then based on the figure, the spots are not nearly as uniform. So I don't know which one's more accurate. You guys can tell me. But I'm told the figure is generally a very nice likeness to the character, so that seems to be a good thing. Just like the Luffy figure, Law is taller than your average import figure, significantly. He is roughly 7 1/4 inches tall, which puts him at about 18.5 centimeters. So very large for an import figure. Almost actually in like a Marvel Select scale if you collect those. Probably kind of like, no, he's pretty much Marvel Select. So it's an interesting scale, but I'm happy to have it because they're really cool figures. They do have a few issues and we'll talk about those, but generally speaking, very well done figures. As far as accessories go, he has a few faces. So we have this face right here. Then we have this face, which is like a yelling face, and they put so much detail into that. There's like a little bit of a grayish line underneath the eyes. The pupils are well done, the eyebrows. There's shading in the mouth, the teeth and tongue and everything. Just really, really well done. And then we have one more face, which is another kind of stern face. Smiling stern-ish and then frowning stern-ish face. And we have interchangeable heads, which is really just the hair part. And this comes in 2 pieces so you can put the faces in. But that way you can take his hat off, technically, if you want to. Which I probably would do, because as of right now, since I don't know the character, I'm not a huge fan of the hat. But he has 2 fist hands, so that's pretty much normal. And I'll show you what's on them as I show you these hands. Then he has a sword holding hand, and of course I'll show you the sword in a minute. Well detailed. He has a pointing finger hand. Really well done again. Nice sculpt on the hands. He has 2 scabbard holding hands. One for either side. And then he has 2 open hands, which I'll show you in a second. Then he has this hand, which has this kind of cool pose going on. And then the open hands, which I'll use to show you the printing on there. So 2 open hands. He's got a better batch of accessories, I think, than even Luffy, so that's kind of odd. But the printing on the hands gives you that logo right there, and then it says death across his fingers. And then I guess I'll show you this side also. It says death again. But very well done, nicely detailed. I don't know if you could see that just now. I'll do it again just in case. So you can see death on both fingers. I think I was doing it like that, but there you go. And then we have also, of course, his scabbard and his sword, which is not just colored, it's actually sculpted like that. So very nicely done, very nice detail. This could use a little bit of paint, I think. I thought it was real rope at first, just when I was looking at it through the package. It's not. It's actually not as floppy as I would prefer. That would help the sculpt, or help the posability if these were a little softer. A little bit of shading wouldn't hurt either, but still a nice piece. And then you can pull his sword out, which is a really nice gunmetal metallic paint and nicely detailed for the rest of the piece. And if you're curious, the sword is rather large actually. It's about 7 1/2 inches, which is also, well, close to 19 centimeters, which means my measurement probably for him was a little bit off, but still a really nice piece, nice accessory. As for the figure itself, the paint on the figure, other than the potential problems with the hat, it's pretty good. The striping on the sleeve looks good. The logo on his back is really well done. The stripe looks good. And then the printing and shading on the jeans, assuming he's got jeans on, they could just be blue pants, I guess. It also looks really good. Really no problems, no complaints there. The shading on the skin tone, very nicely done. And then of course that tattoo is also really nicely done. They've done a really good job making this guy look good. Then he's got his shiny boots on. Assuming those are supposed to be shiny boots, that's accurate. And if they're not, then that's a problem. So as far as articulation goes, let's pop the head off so you can see. We have a long peg on the top of this ball hinge, so you should have pretty good range of motion there. The neck is at least on top of a single ball peg. I guess it could technically be a double, but it does move around, so that's good. And then the upper torso, I'm not entirely sure what we have going on for the upper torso because of the problem they created for no apparent reason, which is a big bummer for me, but I'll show you in a second. So the upper torso I think is just a single ball peg. Could be a double. Lower torso is at least a single, could be a double again. It gets decent side to side range. It goes a little bit forward, not so far back. And the reason it doesn't go back, and this is mind-boggling to me, is the way they designed this. Yeah, his upper torso goes all the way down over his lower torso so that the back of his jacket can connect to that, rather than just having it connect to his lower torso. That to me is a sign of not being quite sure what you're doing with articulation, since Mega House is used to doing statues. So hopefully that kind of thing will work itself out, but this right here is not a good design at all. Having the upper torso go over and around that hump in the middle and then down over the lower torso and even the crotch, it just shreds the articulation for the torso completely. Very disappointing, not good at all. Good news is we do get these nice hinges for the jacket, so you can stick those out and make it look like it's windswept or whatever you want to do. They're not great, they're a little floppy, but at least going straight out back they work. So definitely not an ideal setup for that jacket. Could have been handled way, way, way better. So hopefully Mega House works on that kind of stuff. You know what, let's pop his head back on just so that it's there while we're doing this. For the shoulder, we get a ball peg that goes into the torso with this piece right here just floating to hide that. We get a ball hinge for the shoulder itself. Works pretty well. It's nicely hidden when it's not being used, and it has nice range of motion when it is. So I'm happy about that. We get our bicep swivel up there also, and the way they designed it, it actually works pretty well. We have our double jointed elbow, which gives you good range of motion. My forearm was put on upside down, but a little bit of a hair dryer and pulling it off and popping it back on, no problem at all. And then for the wrists, we have... You always have to be really careful swapping these kind of things out. Standard ball hinge. Very tiny peg though. Be extra careful swapping out these interchangeable hands. And it feels a little loose actually, and it probably doesn't help that you have to yank on it to swap out the hands. But I imagine a few swaps will get those moving a little bit more freely and no big deal. For the hips, they work just like Luffy's. There's no hinge in them. It's just a standard ball peg. So we don't have the best range of motion, but luckily the sculpt, we don't have to flex this crotch piece that is soft plastic. We don't have to flex it as much, so we don't have to worry about the paint cracking as much. And still get pretty decent range of motion out of his legs. So that's a pretty good thing. Then they go out to the side, no problem at all. The thigh swivel, it's pretty limited. That's all you get out of it, but it's not bad, so I think it's alright. Double jointed knee, sculpted pretty well. They did a decent job. I wish they wouldn't use the glossy plastic in there, but as you can see, it's not a super big deal, and it's still a really nice knee joint, so I'm okay with that. For the ankle, here's a problem, and there it goes. I didn't even mean to do that yet, and it just popped right off. So we have a ball hinge in here, which is fine this way. It's really loose going around from side to side, like incredibly loose. And then, if I can pick up that piece, we get this cap that goes over the ball hinge, just kind of snaps out around it, to help hide the joint, which is fine. But having the ankle be that loose, not so fine. And having the foot pop off that easily, also not so fine. So it just pegs in like that, and that gives us our ankle rocker. If you don't want to have to turn the peg around, you can just do it with the foot. And functionally, it's really good. They did a great job with that, but it's just so loose that it's going to be a problem standing him, I think, sometimes. And then lastly, he has a toe joint, which is well enough designed, but it's fairly loose also. So I think standing him might be a little bit of a balancing act, but it looks like it'll probably be worth it because he's a really sharp looking figure, and if you are familiar with the character, then you probably like it even more than I do. So I have to say I recommend it 100%. I think they might be sold out at Big Bad Toy Store, but when they actually come in stock, they probably will have a few more available, so keep an eye on that, and you can check them out by clicking that link in the description. I recommend you do it. It's a great place to buy your stuff. And if you like this video, then click the thumbs up button, and that'll help me out, and I appreciate that. And before you click the subscribe button, for watching more of my custom figures and other stuff like that, I suggest you stick around so you can see this guy posed and in action, so you can see what he actually looks like, how he will be posed on your shelf. So there it is. Now you can click that subscribe button so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.